All right, Sky Squad, we are back in the building and we have got to talk about Love and Marriage Huntsville. We're on episode 6. It's called Being Lady Like. And I'm doing this as an audio today because I am actually visiting my parents. And so, it's Mother's Day weekend. So, we got to do what we got to do with our fam. You know what I'm saying? So, we still gonna get into this thing, okay? Let's go ahead and get down with the get down. On a scale of 1 to 10, I want to rate this episode. You know what? I would almost give this episode a 10. There's a part of me that wants to give it a 10, but I can't give it a 10 mostly because I kind of feel like there was some like editing that I just didn't quite understand. And when we talk about the issue between Melody and Stormi's mom, that's kind of where the editing got a little choppy for me. And I also feel like I don't really understand where the animosity comes in from Tiffany with regards to Keke. Like, I almost feel like there was a conversation that was maybe had that we have had reference to, but we actually missed. And so we're hearing about the conversation much later. So it, to me, doesn't feel like I know exactly why Tiffany feels the way that she feels. Like, I know why she's saying she feels that way, but I don't understand why she's so invested. I guess that's my issue. Having said that, let's go ahead and get into the episode. All right, so we start the episode off with Melanie stopping by Tiffany's house, and she wants to check in on her after the spa day because Tiffany is expecting, and she had gotten into it with Keke at the spa day. So she invites Tiffany to the tea party with Miss Carol, who teaches the etiquette and wants to work with the ladies on communication. Tiffany feels like she allowed Keke to pull her down to her level, and she was shocked that Letitia and Melody are cool at this point. Now, I don't know why they're shocked at this point because I kind of feel like, I feel like it's kind of been made clear to me, at least it seems like, that Tisha and Melody have got to come to a point where they can at least interact together, because I feel like otherwise the show really doesn't work because they were too fractured after the last reunion for it to go anyplace else. It was only going to go downhill if they didn't take it uphill. Okay. Anyway, they end up talking about Martell showing up after Mel had told him 15 minutes prior to the party, which we did not see in the last episode, that he was not invited. So somehow Melody has got a recording of her daughter Mariah calling Martell after the party to see if he wanted to come pick her up and spend some time with her, because his thing was he wanted to spend time with his daughter on her birthday. So then in the recording, we hear Martell tell the daughter that he's going to come get her on Monday. So no, he ain't going to come get her after the party like Melody suggested. He's just going to come and get her on Monday, I guess, when he's scheduled to come and get her. Now, this is interesting because Mel's point to him during the whole altercation at the birthday party was that you can easily just come and get them afterwards versus coming to this party, which I've already told you that I would prefer that you not come to, because I actually have them at this point in time for their birthday, and I'm going to make time for you to have them if you want to afterwards. So for a father to have been so all into trying to see the kids, I guess her point was that when offered and when told that you could actually come and get them on their birthday, you didn't want to come get them. So there's just a little bit more insight into the behind the scenes. And I felt like she probably made that recording so that she could show people that, no, when I try to make an effort with him, he doesn't want that. But when it comes down to time on camera, it's kind of a different story. And she also just says that this is why she moves the way that she moves, is because she knows that it's going to be one way when the cameras are rolling, and it's going to be another way behind the scenes when they are not. Okay. She then goes on to say that she wishes that she had her kids with a man and not a queen. I was like, yo, she is really going in at this point. So getting back to the tea, Mel feels like the tea will help her communicate with a narcissist. All right. And she lets Tiffany know that everybody can bring a plus one. So Tiffany says in this group, a plus one means backup. So someone must be bringing some backup. Now, In the chatterization, y'all chime down in the comments and let me know who y'all felt like brought backup. Did people bring backup? Was backup necessarily needed? Would you have preferred this to have been a conversation, a ponderosa with just the main cast members, and obviously, the ladies who are integrated within the cast, like Stormy, Tiffany, and Keke? Let me know down in the chatterization down below, because in this whole situation, we have obviously a couple of people who have some additional friends that they've brought into this. So let me know in the chat what y'all think. Now, over at Kimmy's house, I'm just going to let y'all know right now, this whole conversation between Kimmy and Maurice frustrated me. Now, I be rooting for Maurice. I really, really do. I like Maurice. I honestly really like him. But it seems so crazy to me, the things that he does when he is in scene with Kimmy. It almost feels like he's trying to gaslight her. And I feel like he's trying to gaslight me as I'm watching this. Not just me specifically, but I'm saying like the audience. Basically, the bottom line is this. Kimmy is like a bonus mom to Monster, right? She's essentially a stepmom. And so Monster is not cooperating with Kimmy. And clearly he's not cooperating with Maurice either, because the goal is to get him to, clean up his room, and he's not doing it. So Kimmy is having some issues because she feels like she needs Maurice to back her up when he doesn't do what she says to do, because she doesn't want to go any further with, doling out punishment or restrictions, because she's the stepmom and she wants to also respect, the relationship between Kiowa and Maurice as being the blood parents, right? And the issue is not really with Kiowa. The issue is really with having Maurice step in and be sort of like the backbone to what she is saying, so that she can really kind of lay down the law with his support. And that's something that Monster probably needs to see. Again, I'm not a step parent. I'm not even a parent. I can only guess and glean from what they're saying to me on the screen that this is how it's going down. Now, as she's asking him for some assistance, he, for some reason, wants to make this about Kiowa and about Kimmy having some relationship with Kiowa where she needs to feel like she can't do what she needs to do with Monster because she's not wanting to step on Kiowa's toes. And it's not really that. While I'm sure Kimmy wants to be respectful of Kiowa's feelings as a parent, I really feel like her issue was with Maurice, and she is trying to tell him as such. And so then he even goes so far as to call Kiowa on the phone and tells Kiowa that Kimmy wants to talk to her, and tells Kiowa that Kimmy has an issue disciplining Monster because of the way Kiowa would feel. And I'm kind of like, now what kind of cockamamie child's play is this, Maurice? Like, what are you doing here? Because I feel like not only are you putting Kimmy on the spot and you're throwing her under the bus in a very unnecessary way, you're also involving Kiowa in a way that is also completely unnecessary. It's like, honestly, bro, you're the dad. You have to be the backbone in that situation. So when he's not listening to Kimmy, he definitely needs to be listening to you. And if Kimmy is laying the foundation for whatever the rules are supposed to be, then I feel like you also have to provide, again, like I said, that backbone in order to make sure that he knows that if he doesn't follow the rules, that there will be consequences. But based on the conversation that he's going to have with Martell later, it sounds to me like he's not even listening to Maurice. So Maurice, it seems like you might have the problem, my brother. You are the person that needs to lay down the law with him, because ultimately, listen, the thing that I think about now is when we look out here on social media and we see these kids these days doing all types of shenanigans and all types of chaos, it is because they seem to somehow lack like any type of fear or respect for authority. And I just feel like that is something that has to be instilled in the home. And I feel like if it's not instilled in the home, then it's going to be instilled in the streets. And the streets are going to educate the kids. And so if you don't have them have some healthy level of respect for you, then they're going to ultimately learn that level of respect somewhere else, like the streets. Okay. So I do feel like that is a Maurice and Kimmy situation, and he doesn't even need to involve Kiowa unless he needs to involve her. You know what I'm saying? But in some way, shape, or form, I don't understand why. I mean, I just think about in my mind when I was growing up, like, my mom and my dad said something like they was like clean up their room. It was clean up their room. You know what I'm saying? But we learned later on, as Maurice will talk to Martell about the situation, that at the end of the day, it's like, yo, they could take away his phone and he's not even affected by it at all. So that tells me that y'all punishment needs to be a lot harder. You know what I'm saying? Like, it needs to be stricter, because at the end of the day, again, if he don't learn it in the home, he's gonna learn it outside the home. And you don't want it to be learned outside the home, because at that point, ain't no telling what's going to happen, because Martell will even tell him later on in another scene, which I guess we'll kind of talk about it right now. Martell lets him know that he was, in alternative school. He was beating up folks and doing all kinds of things and getting in all types of trouble because he didn't have that level of structure within his own home. And we've kind of heard this before. And that's not to knock Miss Marlene, I don't think, but I just feel like that was his story. And he told Maurice that, he got into ROTC, he got into sports, and maybe those are some of the things that they need to involve Monster in so that he can learn some level of discipline and respect for authority. Because it sounds like right now it's a little bit lax and a little bit lenient, but I don't know. I'm not trying to judge them as parents, but I am just trying to say that this is seemingly what is going on, and I'm basically reacting to it. You know what I'm saying? Again, I ain't trying to come down on them, because I know that everybody has their own way of parenting, and I feel like, who am I to tell somebody what's right? But I'm gonna tell you what I know, okay, from my own experience, and that's what I know. All right, so let's move on. Stormy takes Keke to go do Reiki to cleanse their energy. Now, they're going to go to a spiritual healer named Miss Bernie, and she lets them know that she is a child of God and her calling came from the church. All right. Now, it's interesting because she let them know that right at the start, but Keke is still questioning, like, how it all goes back into being a child of God, because she gets mixed up whenever they say, talk about crystals and chakras and stuff like that. And she feels like it could be blasphemous against God's will. So when Miss Bernie chimes back at her and she says, well, when people ask that, she figures that they just haven't read the Bible. Okay. And I guess I need to do a little bit more of a deep dive into that, because I don't really know how it correlates with the Bible myself. But I'm all for it. Whatever you feel like is going to cleanse your energy and cleanse your spirits and stuff like that, I say do it. Listen, go do it. But Keke says in her confessional that her pastor may not like this, and she won't knock it till she tries it. And I'm like, girl, with the way you've been arguing on this show, I think that these chakras and cleansing is the least of your concerns about your pastor at this point. Okay. So anyway, Miss Bernie gets to work and lets Stormy know that she moves from a place of purity, and Stormy isn't in tears. Now, in my opinion, this is only me thinking this through. I kind of feel like Stormy feels a sense of relief that was said on camera, because I feel like Stormy is a little bit, I don't know. I feel like she's trying to figure out her path on this reality TV journey, from being seen one way with regards to the way maybe perhaps fans have been receiving her and maybe receiving her mom. And then hearing the healer also say that she moves from a state of purity, like, okay, somebody else sees the intention that I have for the things that I'm trying to do. I felt like that was maybe a sense of relief for her. But again, I'm only taking a guess here, right? And so afterwards, Kimmy and Stormy kind of have a little conversation with each other after Miss Bernie tells Keke that her words have power. And so they get to a place where Keke basically realizes that Stormy's not coming from a bad place with her. Stormy's just calling it like she sees it. It wasn't in a malicious way, but they kind of get on the same page. But Keke also reveals that she's not satisfied with how things panned out with Tiffany. And Keke also wants to be respectful with Tiffany, but, she also suggests that, because, Tiffany is pregnant, she suggests that Tiffany mind her manners, because, okay, if you're expecting, then you need to act like you expecting, basically is what Keke is saying. Like, you can't get buck with people, like, and then expect everybody to respect the fact that you're pregnant, but you're getting buck. And by getting buck, I don't really mean physically buck. I just mean like, Tiffany is coming in hot. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's pretty much what Keke is trying to say. But Stormy says that, she tried to tell Tiffany, like, hold on now, because the old folks used to say that the person that you arguing with while you pregnant is who your baby gonna end up looking like. And so Keke is like, well, it would be great if her daughter looked like me. And Stormy is looking at her like, girl, what? That was funny. So I told you guys about Martell meeting with Maurice at the building location or whatever. And, we kind of talked really about the gist of that scene earlier. But now we got to move to the day of Melody's tea party. Now, Melody is instructed by Carol, okay, to greet everyone. And so all of the ladies arrive and Melody greets everybody. And Stormy has brought her mother Betty with the hopes of allowing her mother to see a different side of the group dynamic. So they kind of get into the serving of the tea and all this kind of stuff like that. And then Melody recaps the group dynamic at the spa and how this tea is meant to make sure that they're comfortable with each other and how they make each other feel when they speak to each other. So Stormy asks Carol, what should she do about her cursing a lot? And so Carol tells her that when we lack, basically that people use curse words when they lack vocabulary, okay? And I was like, I think that that's partially true. For me personally, I kind of feel like a curse word should be like an exclamation point. You know what I'm saying? And to me, when a person curses a whole lot, to me, that's like putting a bunch of exclamation marks at the end of every sentence in a paragraph. It just looks odd on paper. And I feel like that's how it comes across in real life to me. But that's just me. And that's just how I use language. Of course, as you guys know, I try not to curse on my YouTube channel at all in general. Not only because, they try to keep the content family friendly on YouTube, but also because I just don't know who's watching. You know what I'm saying? It could be somebody's kid watching. You could be watching this with your kids. And so I'm just trying to respect the ears. Anyway, Stormy and Keke both like using curse words. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. All right. So then Nell Fletcher wants to get to the meat of the problems in the group. But she feels like there's an energy between Mel and Stormy. And so I was like, okay, Nell, like, let's get all the way into it. Okay. So Betty then asked, well, is the issue really between Mel and Stormy or between Mel and Stormy's mother? And Nell, to me, this was so funny. Nell was like, well, I don't know Stormy's mother. And it was kind of like, okay, I mean, I thought it was actually, appropriate, because it's kind of like, while I do feel like I understand the fact that Stormy's mother may have an issue with Mel, but I do feel like it's going to really boil down to whatever issues that Stormy and Melody have, if there are really any issues. Because listen, somebody's mother not liking somebody is really not the same as them not liking somebody. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like Miss Betty is allowed to have her opinions about whatever she wants to have. That doesn't always necessarily mean that Stormy has those same opinions. So I feel like if anybody should speak about the issue, it's really Stormy and Melody, and not Melody and Stormy's mom. Because I do feel like there is a place where you kind of like, it's only so much you could say to somebody's mother. You know what I mean? Like, I can't have the same level of discourse that I have with you and then try to have that same level of discourse with an elder mother. And y'all, I think y'all know, if you've been on this channel long enough, you know what I mean by an elder mother. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, it's difficult to have that level of conversation. Even if the elder mother feels a certain type of way and you feel like she might be disrespecting you, you can't really go back and forth with her, but so much in that situation, right? So Betty basically breaks it down that there was something that happened on social media, but she wants Nell to stay out of it. And Nell is kind of like, well, okay, now hold on now. Like, and then Stormy interjects and she does politely tell Nell to back off, the situation. But Carol kind of jumps in and tells Stormy, like, hey, you just interrupted Nell, and that was actually rude, right? And I see what Stormy was trying to do, but I also feel like I personally wish that Stormy would have been like, okay, Ma, like, hold on for a second. Let me handle this situation with Mel, because that if there's an issue to be had, I need to handle it. So, because if she doesn't do that, then the audience is going to have a reaction to her mom. And I don't know that she would like for that to happen. You know what I'm saying? even though her mom is her own person and she has her own mind and she says whatever she wants. I'm just trying to think ahead. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that in the past, Letitia has gotten the brunt of whatever has happened because of her mother, right? So I'm just literally thinking back to situations that we've seen on this show in the past, right? So anyway, at that point, Mel kind of breaks the fourth wall, right? And she basically says, well, listen, I was asked about Stormy at the reunion, and I said that I felt like Stormy represents what Love and Marriage Huntsville is. And I wouldn't say that about somebody that I had a problem with. But she also goes on to say she didn't know what Miss Betty's issue was, and she wants to know now. So Miss Betty brings up the issue with the screen recording, okay? And I'm like, oh God, we still on that. All right. And so people apparently took what Mel said and ran with it because they thought that the person that Melody was referring to was Stormy. So Miss Betty's issue is that Mel didn't stop the cavalry on social media from coming after Stormy after that happened. That's an interesting space for me because I kind of feel like, it's difficult because if you jump into every little thing that people think on social media, then you will constantly be fighting every single battle. And I do feel like that's really the case. And Mel made a case for herself. She was like, I have to battle these. I have to, deal with a lot of stuff on social media all the time, as does the rest of the cast in general. So if you spend time trying to correct every single thing that somebody says on social media, then again, you will always be defending yourself. But she does apologize if Miss Betty was offended by the tweet. She says, for that, I can apologize. And so then we get this weird cut. And Miss Betty says, oh, I'm going to shut you down with this. Now, shut up. My direct issue with you is how you do things, not coming back and shutting it down. And then, says that Melody could have come back and said Stormy wasn't the person who did the recording and not just say the person that was in my home was not the person who did the recording. And I'm kind of like, where did that animosity come from? That switch? It seemed like Miss Betty went from like 0 to 100 real quick with the, oh, I'm going to shut you down with this. Now shut up. It just seemed a little bit disjointed to me, and I didn't really understand that. And I'm like, did I miss something? Was there something cut out? Now I know this is reality TV, so they can't show every little thing because we don't have time. We got 42 minutes of airtime. But I was just kind of like, now this is a little choppy for me. Anyway, Mel again apologizes for if the tweet offended Stormy, but she didn't know they had an issue. And somehow we're just done with that. I don't see Miss Betty say, okay, well, it's resolved. I don't see Stormy say, okay, it's resolved, because we kind of cut right into Keke having an issue that she needs to resolve with Tiffany. I'm like, but wait, we didn't resolve the other issue. But Keke has taken precedent at this moment. I'm assuming that we're going to have to get back to the Melody and Stormy situation because I still don't feel like it was resolved, but whatever. We on to the next. All right. Keke feels like Tiffany has been lying. And I'm like, what lies? So Tiffany has explained that she protects her energy and she doesn't entertain BS. But Letitia came to her home. And I feel like we may have seen this in flashback, but I needed to see the scene all together. And I guess maybe Letitia was in tears, and if Tiffany felt like if Keke could do that to Tisha, then she doesn't know if she could get to know Tiffany. She doesn't know if she can get to know Keke like that or be in community with someone like that. And she just kind of knows of Keke and she doesn't really know her. But Keke is ready for Tiffany today, okay? And she breaks it all the way. Now, this would have been an epic read to me. This would have been an almost Phaedra level read had Keke not overshot in the end. And I'm going to tell you where she overshot in just 1 second before I get there. But let me talk to you about the way I felt like she was gathering Tiffany at one point. She says, listen, I'm going to break down for you because you clearly don't know, you sad, pitiful soul, the difference between knowing of someone and knowing them. She says she's known Tiffany for years. She says her son plays for Lewis's baseball team. So she doesn't understand why Tiffany is lying. Okay. She says, you've talked to my mom, you've talked to my, somebody else that I know, and you've talked to my in-laws. So no, you don't know of me. You know me. I was like, yes, Keke, you better listen. The way she said it, the way she delivered it, I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, give me more of this, Keke. But Tiffany, I ain't gonna lie to y'all now. Tiffany is a smart woman because she does not come out of character when she speaks necessarily. She's able to think and process and really articulate her points. And she basically says that, listen, I don't know you like that. Basically, that's what she's saying. She says, every time you've been introduced to this group, it's been as Melody's friend, right? But you have never been, but you're also Tisha's cousin, and I feel like you should act like it. And basically, she's like, I've never sat down and had a conversation like with you to really get to know you one-on-one, all right? So, Keke's like, well, I went on a whole crusade for you to help you find your father, but you don't know me. So apparently Melody has scheduled a surprise meeting with Tiffany and Keke regarding Tiffany's search for her dad. All right. And, Keke apparently has some connections with the place that Tiffany is from. So Tiffany says that nothing ever came of that. Okay. And Keke says that this was a way of her trying to find some type of connection for Tiffany. So Kimmy and Tiffany are like, well, Keke, did you follow up? And Kiki's like, did she? That's her father, not mine. And so as Kimmy's trying to explain her question, Keke says, and this is where she overshot, okay? She says, and yes, I've always known who my dad was. I was like, Keke, now come on. You didn't see, now that was where she had to go real low. And so as she's trying to explain, oh, it wasn't really a dig, and Carol has to educate her that it was. Melody, before you know it, baby, Melody is up and walking around that little tea shop, and she is handing out gifts, and she is like, okay, y'all, it's time to go. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your attendance in this event. Here's your gift box. Now get the heck on, okay? And that's the end of that. Now, next week, Sheree is going to be there, so it's going to be extra good. Let me know what y'all thought about this episode in the chatterization down below, and I would be so interested to read you guys' comments. With that being said, to all of my mothers out there, to all of my soon-to-be mothers out there, and to all of my anybody who's in the mothering position, happy Mother's Day, and I will catch you in the next video.